All right, sounds like we are recording live. I'm Will from Colorado Carshare. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're going to go through a fairly high-level overview of car sharing, and then we'll circle back to get into the specific details with a question and answer session. So Colorado Carshare is a local nonprofit based here in Boulder with service around the Denver metro area, and more to come. We are a over 20-year-old nonprofit, and our future is experiencing electrifying growth, as I like to say. So we've got some exciting updates that will follow this presentation in the coming months. So please keep an eye on carshare.org and the Mobility Matters newsletters for updates that are coming soon. So we can move forward into our first slide. While we're getting there, so I know we've all spent a lot of time on Zoom meetings in the last couple of years, so I'm going to try to keep this relatively fun, hopefully, and light in terms of the details, but we have a lot of details. So to start with some of the general communications, is we've probably all learned in these years, the video helps with communication, and what that means for us is when we get to the Q&A and sort of community building section towards the end, as you're speaking, please turn your video on if you feel comfortable with that so that we can get to know your face and have some body language cues. Of course, mute unless you're speaking. Chat you're likely familiar with. We've got Jessica and Dylan to help facilitate some of those. So if you have a question or a comment as I'm sharing details about car sharing and our partners, please feel free to put that out whenever you would like, and we'll circle back to that towards the end. And as a heads up for everybody, this is going to be recorded. So if you'd rather not put your video out there, we can understand. But the upside is that we'll have an archive on YouTube, so this can be viewed subsequently and shared with your community. Let's move on forward. So Colorado Carshare is a unique nonprofit in the sense that we have what we usually refer to as a two-pronged approach. We've got a mission statement, which you can see up top, as well as some top tier or the top 5 core values. The key thing that I really want to highlight today is this two-pronged approach where we have sort of a revenue earning service offering of vehicles at certain rates. And then we've got a quite robust advocacy and community engagement and equity standpoint, as many of our other nonprofit partners do. So we'll speak to both of those contexts as we go forward, but there's a few things you can see here. I really want to take a moment to highlight this second point. I have Bobby from our member experience team on with us. She's fantastic. As a small local nonprofit with literally a lot of moving parts, the key advantage that I see is the sense of community and the detailed support that both our individual and organizational members get as Carshare members. So thanks for joining, Bobby. We've also got a big sustainability kick that you'll see on the 5th point down there that we'll talk about expansion of zero emission vehicles, both the 2-wheel and the 4-wheel kind. So we'll move on into the first part. The overview of Carshare, like I said, it's a relatively simple concept with a lot of fairly complex details. So in essence, we have cars and trucks that are available all over, as we like to say, in central Boulder and central Denver, with expanding locations. Each of those cars are available to use 24/7 at an hourly or a daily, even a weekly rate. There are some really cool features of individual vehicles, and there are exciting new features coming soon, but all are currently structured in a round trip model. This is a cause for some confusion where folks might say, I live in Denver, but I work in Boulder. Can't I just drive the car and leave it there? Well, actually, no. Part of that sustainability goal is encouraging transit, cycling, carpooling, and other alternative means. So we have this round trip model for a few reasons, and primarily because it's predictable in that way. If we allowed one way in what was used to be called free floating car sharing, you can't plan a month or even a year in advance. So we're sticking with this more traditional round trip car share model, and it's working really well for us. In over 20 years of operation, we're seeing great success. And we're maintaining an expanding variety of vehicles. Down in the lower left, you can see a hybrid, all-wheel drive, good clearance Toyota RAV4. We keep ski racks and bike racks on that year-round. It's got great traction with snow tires on it. In the middle, this is at Sloan's Lake, where we've got a zero emission EV for sort of zipping around urban contexts. And we even have more traditional, very high clearance, studded snow tire in the winter Toyota Tacoma, as you can see down in the bottom right. So anyone who is in Boulder at the beginning of the year, you can see what you would really need some clearance. We started in Boulder over 20 years ago up in North Boulder. So we've still got some vehicles in our kind of founding community areas there. There's over 20 vehicles around Central Boulder, including at the county courthouse. If any of you work or spend some time there at 13th and Spruce, there's a plug-in gas hybrid Chevy Volt, as well as a block and a half away, an all-electric Chevy Bolt, and another all-wheel drive pickup truck at 13th and Walnut. So from the county courthouse, there's 3 vehicles within 3 blocks, and that's something we're really proud of because there's also B-Cycle and Transit, and I believe it's currently called Way to Go in the van pooling that parks in that lot. So that's one way that we really like to leverage partnerships to help our members choose a variety of ways. Similar thing is true in Denver, where we have sort of a central transit core concentration, and then we branch out into different areas, particularly along the light rail. So on the right, if you see the yellow, looks like Lincoln Park area, that's at 10th and Osage, which is a low to medium income transit oriented development. We've currently got 3 all electric vehicles there with 2 dedicated charging stations. And then further down along the light rail is at the Alameda station, where we've got another truck and I think it's almost 45 miles a gallon hybrid, which has snow tires and ski racks. So just because you're going to the mountains doesn't mean you need a huge car. Move forward here. And I will say, since I put an overview of the maps on there at carshare.org, there's a map that's publicly viewable to anyone where you can zoom in and get a sense for where our vehicles are placed. And then once you become a member, you can familiarize yourself with these locations and actually see which specific car is there. Speaking of becoming a member, I like to say it's as easy as ABC, but as I've mentioned a few times already, there's a lot of details. So the first step on becoming a member is applying. There's an online application. It's fairly straightforward to get that application in, but then we start the subsequent steps. So we need to check your motor vehicle record or your driving history. That takes a few days. There's an online orientation that's a relatively simple quiz, but we hope it's helpful for everyone because it speaks to a couple points that can come up in car sharing, which might be a source of complication or for some folks a little bit of frustration. So we like to try to address that before you actually get the keys to go. And speaking of keys, you don't actually use keys. You can bring your keys, but you'll use a key fob or something that you'll see on the next slide, which is a new business card sized access card. And we need to get those keys to you. So it takes 2 or 3 days for us to process these things and deliver you that key. It's not an instantaneous process. We love to have members for many, many years. So we like to kind of build a relationship and have an understanding that membership is not an instantaneous process. There are multiple costs, a lot of savings, but a few different cost details, which we will talk about in subsequent slides. But I do want to point out, anyone on the call or any of your colleagues, we do offer discounts for Boulder County employees. There's a promo code that's BOCO. And if anyone is involved with or living in some of our income qualified housing, we offer an excellent discount, which I can explain more in detail later on in our Q&A, or we can speak specifically on emails. But it's something we're really proud of from an equity standpoint, as well as our electrification growth projects. We are partnering with both Boulder Housing Partners and the Boulder County Housing Alliance to offer affordable and equitably distributed all electric vehicles. And we're also offering discounted usage rates for those cars. I do need to point out a little bit more fine print that these discounts do not change our insurance coverage, which is quite comprehensive, but there is a deductible that is part of that. So I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that. Can move forward one step. So lots of details. Essentially, car sharing pricing comes down to time and distance. That can be at an hourly basis, which is actually in 15-minute increments. There's a flat rate, which essentially takes you to a daily rate after a certain amount of time. And then we also have initiated weekly rates. not so much to compete with car rental because we're nonprofit car sharing. That's different than car rental, but we do want to offer that service to our members. So we're trying to be flexible and accommodating as we can. And to be honest, the pricing is complicated because it almost always serves our members to be the most cost effective. Rather than just saying it's $10 an hour, $100 a day, we have these very granular pricing structures so that each trip is unique, and there's a subtle incentivization to only use a car for what you actually need. So there are 3 different plans. This might be a good point to come back to for individual questions, sort of individual use cases in the Q&A session. But I wanted to give you the overview of what an individual would be able to choose from. And there is some variance in this where you can change a plan once or twice a year once you've used car sharing and realize, actually, my situation is going to be better for freewheeling. Or you know what, I'm going to switch over to simply hourly. So there is some flexibility there. But the key thing is these costs are what you pay, and there is so much that you don't have to pay for, such as getting a flat tire. That's actually our fleet manager, Drew. He'll help you out with that one, but you wouldn't have any direct costs. Gas, charging for our electric vehicles, really excellent insurance, as well as some roadside assistance are all included with your membership. You can go on forward now. So I pointed out the key fob, just to give you a little scale. That's my house key on the left. So it's a little larger than a guitar pick. Those are sort of our classic legacy access items. What we're starting to mail out now is something that'll fit easily in your wallet, especially if you have one of those wallets that attach to the back of your phone. And these are contact readers. So you'll become a member, you'll make a booking, and then you'll unlock the car using one of these 2 devices. And this is actually a really important point, that it's unlike using your own car where you would have a little remote beep beep where you would lock and secure the vehicle or even press the door locks. The technology that we have in our vehicles, it's really important that the only way you get in and complete your trip is using these key fobs. And there's a reader on every windshield for the time being. So this is what we will mail you to allow you to access the car once you've made a booking. We can go forward and see what that looks like. Again, this is not necessarily car rental. Our software provider phrases this as booking. It's relatively exchangeable with the word reservation, but at any rate, you want to hold your car. We've got a nice user interface on our mobile website. So this can actually be viewed on a computer or on your smartphone. And you can also view a different way if you're an account manager to get more detail. But for right now, on the left, if you go to carshare.org, once you're a member, you can log in and save the bookmark. Then this screen will greet you at each time. To start a booking, you would just choose new booking. I've populated today's date so we could see what car availability looks like following this lunch and learn. If we were to simulate clicking search down below within Boulder, that'll take us to the next slide. And we'll see that we've got some great availability this afternoon. There's a long list, as you'll see at the top, 22 vehicles. So we could scroll down and see where different cars are located. If you're seeing a place that you're not familiar with, there's a button for a map view, which we'll see on the next slide. So one of our newest cars is at the North Boulder Recreation Center. If any of you work with or at the Housing and Human Services on Broadway and Iris, this is probably your closest car currently. And it's really nice. I was in it yesterday. It's got good clearance, nice fuel economy. It's a gasoline car, so it's easy on the range if you have a mountain trip. And it'll give you sort of a visual cue of where the vehicle is, as well as some detailed descriptions down below. If you already are familiar with it, you can just click book it from the search screen, or at the bottom of the details, you can book the car, and then you'll get a confirmation, as I did to simulate here. So you'll see on the screen, as well as receive an email for which car you have. And cars are definitely not the only way to get around. This is our 2-prong approach. We have vehicles that we earn income from, and we have advocacy, which we encourage folks to try other options frequently, and honestly, more often than driving a car. So at the top left, transit is a great resource for us. Many of our members have an eco pass either through their work or their place of residence. We actually give discounts to EcoPass holders to help them have the resource of car sharing. And that's honestly one of the plans that I had mentioned that didn't have a monthly fee. It's a great backup plan for folks who regularly commute on transit to have not so much a guaranteed ride home, but a supplement of a vehicle during the day. So taking transit or carpooling, knowing that you've got a car in town makes it a lot easier than being yet another car on the highway. As I had mentioned, mixed income housing is a big part of our expansion plan. And we do currently have lots of co-locations with bike share, as you'll see on the left. It's actually a vintage shot. All of the B-cycles, at least in Boulder, are now white and pedal assist electric. We're also close partners with Via Mobility, who operate the Hop, as you'll see down on the bottom, and several of our vehicles are right along the Hop and other RTD routes. We can move on forward. B-Cycle's director actually reached out this morning and wanted to make sure that everyone on the call is aware of some great discounts that they offer, very much in coordination with this overall mission of shared use mobility. So there's some details here. There's a community page for anyone at qualified housing around Boulder County. And then for all the Boulder County employees, you get a great deal on using those bikes around town. Where our car share service is round trip, B-Cycle is a great one-way alternative. On most of these business and annual plans, you get 60 minutes to ride the bike compared to a day pass, which might only give you 30 minutes. And with the pedal assist, especially if you've never ridden an electric bike before, this is a really nice introduction because they've got this low step frame. There are 3 different gears. And it's a subtle assist. It's not the high voltage electrical power that you might have seen on some other vehicles. To give sort of a more in-depth shout out and appreciation to our partners at Via and B-Cycle, I put a link to our local radio station. It's 88.5 FM. KGNU has an archive of our director, Peter, as well as Kevin Krause and Frank from Via Mobility, speaking in depth on Boulder County, Colorado, and national initiatives at evolving transportation. So I'd highly recommend giving this a listen. It's about 45 minutes and it's archived. So anytime you want, the broadcast is live. We can move forward one more. So as I mentioned, a lot of details. Thank you, Angel, for sharing that link. It's a really good article, and there's a funny thing about a bicycle traffic report, which you might want to follow Colorado Carshare on Twitter, because I'd really like to start doing that in the summer. I think that'd be fun. So sort of a pat on the back, Colorado Carshare is one of the only existing nonprofit car shares in the country. And to my knowledge, the only one who has stated a goal of trying to be a completely electric, affordable nonprofit car share. This mission was accepted and initiated by our board of directors a few years ago. And honestly, we're making impressive progress. On the next slide, you'll start to see how that's looking. So there are new vehicles which are really improving the quality of the member experience. Second from the top left is a Prius Prime, which has fantastic fuel economy as well as heated leather seats and ski racks, plug-in options for around town or longer range sort of on-demand gas driving. The Chevy Bolts that we are acquiring now are the newer model, which is an EUV that gives a little more headroom and overall carrying capacity. And they're 100% electric and they're capable of a quick charge. So in our new car shares, there's a charge point charging card. It's kind of like a credit card, but you just tap it on these charging stations in the middle. And those can be at the standard, what they call level 2 chargers, where you can refill the car completely overnight. It's also accepted at fast chargers, which I've started to test around town. We've got some at the 29th Street Mall, 1500 Pearl. There's a few around Denver, and these can give you almost 100 miles of range in less than an hour. So your membership not only includes charging, but it includes convenient and expedited charging as well. Forward one. So this is essentially our recap. Like I said, there's lots of details. So I want to make sure that we have some Q&A, and I would encourage chats and dialogue as we go forward. But this is really the why that we continue doing what we're doing. Colorado Carshare started as the Little Red Car Co-op with the mission of reducing vehicle impact in a community. And we're still doing that, but at a much larger context. As we start to place vehicles in more dense housing, I actually think these numbers can increase. So traditionally, we would say it's 9 to 13 personally owned vehicles that could potentially be replaced altogether by a single shared vehicle. When we have folks living even closer with more transit accessible routing, that could go up. The vehicle miles traveled is a big metric that probably a lot of us on the call are familiar with. And I honestly think that round trip car sharing is a great resource to help bring those down. Our particular sort of roster is standing over 4,000 members right now. Some have been involved for 20 years, great people, and 50 plus vehicles. I want to really emphasize that plus because our fleet is growing. There will be some exciting updates of what those cars are going to be and some of the benefits that they uniquely provide in the coming months. So please keep an eye out. We have a newsletter if you would like to join. And to give a recap of all this information that I've tried to not rush through, but also not get too caught up into, at carshare.org, our new member quick guide really goes through all of these things. And that can be your sort of primer when and if you're ready to join, because as I mentioned, the application is available there online. That's about it for now. We can jump to our final slide. We always like to say safe travels. That's a well wish. And it's also something that we, I want to say require, but I'll say request of our members. So safe travel starts before you even get in the vehicle. Knowing what the conditions are and making sure you feel comfortable from your time. If you're in a big rush, if the roads are icy, we can be flexible on some booking details for inclement and emergency situations. But the main thing I really want to highlight is what our director puts in every single newsletter. Please put your phone down when you drive. So I will say an advance welcome to everybody as a member of Colorado Carshare, and whichever vehicle you're in, please be mindful and have your phones down. So thanks for joining on this, and I would love to open it up for a Q&A.
All right, great transportation, Will. So what we'll do is we'll do the chat first. We have just one question, and then we'll open it up to the video chat. For the video chat questions, if you could raise your hand, we'll using the reactions button, we'll go in the order that we get those hands up. And for our chat questions, Lauren Greenfield asks, Boulder/Denver maps are great. We have a car/map envy. Is there a plan to expand in Longmont, both in terms of number of vehicles, locations, and ability to reserve for multiple days?
That's a great question. Sorry, was that Lauren, did you say?
Yep, Lauren Greenfield.
Great. Hey, Lauren, you know, I'm sorry, because I forgot to put the Longmont pop-out on this slide.
It was there.
Great news. We currently have a Prius hybrid at 6th and Kaufman. So that's just off Main Street, half a block. And actually, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you, today we are bringing another car to Longmont. So great time to ask your question.
Thursday. It's going to be on Thursday.
Okay, so that's why we want Bobby here for your availability. What we're doing on the fleet end and what the members experience can sometimes be two different things, but it's a very happy yes to your question. So it will be at almost the same location. There's a new, I believe it's housing and work mixed use development called Spoke, like the spoke of a bicycle. So we will have an all electric Nissan Leaf as well as a hybrid there in the short term. And gosh, if we could just find enough people to use those cars a bunch, maybe we would add more. So, and Lauren, looks like you might be muted there.
Oh, I think I unmuted. Can you hear me
There
now?
you go.
Okay. So as a follow-up question to that, is there something we can do from the city of Longmont to help encourage? And I think that having a second vehicle will be huge, because I do know that we haven't been able to do multiple day rentals from the one in the city. And I also have been asked, well, are there other ones? So that's great to hear that there's two. And if there's anything that we can do from the city perspective to get that news out, we can.
So Lauren, you can actually do multiple day rentals. You can do a week-long rental if you want. And we're actually working on one that has a 2-month-long rentals, not in Longmont, but we have someone looking for that. So you can do a multiple day rental, and especially when there's going to be 2 cars there, that would be great to do that. But it's only going to be 2 cars for a short time.
Well, that will be available in Longmont too. The weekly rental in Longmont.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Lauren, it sounds like you work with the city. I see your name on there, but I don't think we've met before. So I'm will@carshare.org. Please reach out. Let's connect. I've got some marketing tasks that I need to accomplish. I would love your help with that. And for everybody's review, so Lauren's asking about extended bookings. So any member, anytime, can book a car from 15 minutes up to 48 hours. And if your plans change within 12 hours, you can change, essentially shorten or cancel that booking. If you find that something comes up during your booking, you can say, I'm done with this car. And if someone else books it, you don't have to pay that time. So we try to keep it relatively flexible, but most of our bookings happen within the same day. So there's a 12-hour window. That's kind of the magic number in terms of like, oh no, plans changed. On the other side of that, you can book up to 365 days in advance for that 15-minute to 48-hour window. And then we do now offer these longer weekly bookings. So maybe Bobby would confirm, I believe that needs to be a phone call to our member services team.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
more days.
Yeah, and that doesn't include taxes or gas. When you do a weekly rental, it doesn't include your gas. And you do have to call us, and then we reserve it for you, and then you pay in advance. And yeah.
Great.
Does that
Lauren,
answer your question?
Good. That's expounding on what I was saying of we're not offering this as a rental car, and we're certainly not trying to compete with rental car companies. We just want to provide our members with an array of options and really meet the needs. The weekly rate is something that's relatively new and relatively popular. It can also serve folks that don't live in Colorado, but visit every now and then and like the idea of supporting a local nonprofit and living a car light lifestyle, even if just for a week out of the year.
Great. Thanks for that, Will and Lauren. I had a question actually. Would you all be able to share a map, or do you all have any other maps that show more clearly like the locations in Lafayette and Louisville? I'm sure there's just based on the map, there's so many locations. I'm sure that there is some locations in those cities, but if you could just touch on that.
Sure. And Nancy or Gail, I saw you raise your hand. So
yeah, it's
just a moment. Car sharing is a dynamic, it's a living organization is an easy way to say it. So to Dylan's question, at carshare.org, there is a general public no login needed map. It's honestly not as accurate as our members map, because every now and then we move cars. Like we're going to add a new EV to Longmont. That's going to take a little longer to update on the website, but our members will see it live in the moment. So subtle push, become a Carshare member and you'll get the best information. But to Dylan's question, we have a pause on our Lafayette service currently. We have an active vehicle in Louisville at Kestrel, which is a dense housing community. I believe it's at South Boulder Road and 95th, but Kestrel, like the bird, there is a car that serves that community currently. And almost all of our members are within the Boulder, Denver area. So our placement and density really skews to those two areas. But as I've alluded to, our company and our service offering is expanding. So there will be many more locations to add. Dylan, thanks for getting that vehicles and locations site in there. And again, that is there's a bit of a lag on that map. So that will give you an overview of our concentrations in service areas, but members see the most accurate and current information.
Okay, thank you so much. And you all said there was someone with their hand up.
Yeah, Nancy had her hand up.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I go by Gail, and I work for Boulder County. Sometimes I work remotely. I used to live in South Boulder, and I would take the bus from South Boulder all the way into the courthouse. The bus I used was the GS that comes from Golden, and because of COVID, they cut the service. And now, this year, I live remotely half the time, and the other half the time I'm in Colorado and live in Arvada. And if the bus was still serving, I could ride the bus, but the GS bus doesn't serve me. I don't own a car in Colorado. Is there a way I can use your service from Arvada?
Boy, I feel a couple different things I can say, and I'm happy to let other folks on the call speak to transit updates that might be coming. I understand what you're saying, because I have a friend who lived south of Hanover, and there was a bus stop for the GS right in front of her house. So it was great. I've also taken the GS to Lakewood with my snowboard in a bag under the bus and met my friend and gone up to Loveland from there. So I would love to see that service resume. I'm not affiliated with RTD directly, so I can't speak to anything about that. I am seeing some exciting changes proposed for late May. We might get the express bus back to Denver. So what I would say is, if the FF2 resumes and you can get anywhere near Old Town Arvada, that light rail train, I believe it's the G line, is the newer, sort of heavier light rail, like the A line that goes to the airport. It's a very comfortable ride. And so you would actually be going away from Boulder and then taking the bus to come up for your commuting. But in terms of our vehicles, so we have a Subaru Outback, an all-wheel drive vehicle at Sloan's Lake, which is not in Arvada, but it is in Western Denver. So since we have this round trip model, it would entail getting to one of our vehicles, be it downtown Denver, Sloan's Lake, or somewhere else, in order to pick it up. So if you are traveling into into Colorado partial times of the year, you might actually be the person I was alluding to, who could choose our no cost plan, or depending on your department, have a Boulder County organizational plan, which you could book weeks or even months in advance to know that you'll have a vehicle available to you when you are in Colorado. In that context, I might suggest a trial of, if you were to fly into Colorado, you could take the light rail to downtown Denver, and there's, I would say, 3 cars within 5 blocks of Union Station. But again, if you book in advance and you know you want the Subaru that's at Union Station, or you prefer an electric vehicle, which is a block away at the Alliance Center, you can essentially guarantee that car will be there for you while you're out of state. And as long as you have your Colorado Carshare card, you'll be able to unlock that. Just don't forget to put it in your wallet or your luggage when you travel. So it's a long-winded answer, but that is one way I can see you still being able to utilize and benefit from Colorado Carshare.
Okay.
Would you share which department you work with at the county?
IT.
IT.
And I don't have to go in very often, but there are occasions that I need to go into Boulder from Arvada, which the home I live in Arvada is close to Highway 93, which would have been great for the GS. If they should start that service up, I know I will use it.
Okay.
However, getting to where your cars are is going to be an issue for me.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the challenges that we have, and that we don't want folks to drive in order to get a car. It's a little redundant. Or take a Lyft or take a taxi or whatever that is. But it's one of the constraints that we have. So we have to put our cars where they're going to serve the most folks. And then
I understand.
Sort of my role of really wanting to try to stretch that to serve more folks. I'm going to open it up to see if anyone else could speak to the GS. But I would want to just highlight that typically a department, be it at the county or a large company, would need an account administrator to kind of manage the Carshare account. So if you are the manager of your division, you could become a admin for your county department's team and also have a personal account. So there's sort of two things here where you've got business usage and you've got personal usage. For instance, Angel could be our account manager for mobility, and Angel could book vehicles for Dylan or Jessica. And then Dylan or Jessica on the weekend could go in and book their own cars that Angel's not actually paying for, but they don't have extra membership fees. So it's a little bit confusing, but it's more flexibly attainable.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Will. I'll just chime in a little bit. So Gail, the GS is included in RTD service optimization plan for restoration, but it's on hold due to the operator shortage and just some of the, not just operators, but just in general, like mechanic shortage, like support staff shortage and such. So as Will did say, the FF2 is prioritized to come back before the GS. I would reach out, since you are a county employee, to our employee transportation coordinator, and that's just etc@bouldercounty.org, and that's just for Boulder County employees, to talk to them about possibly joining a van pool. I know that some of the van pools have been put on hold during COVID, but as more people are coming back into the office, I think I would check in with Cami Edson and Alexandra Phillips. They're kind of transitioning that role. But just if you contact that for internal candidates, like internal employees, that will be helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for chiming in on that, Angel. The van pool is something that I feel is wonderful because it really does that sort of alternative to a fixed route service. And it was one of the most impacted things in COVID, like overnight and for the longest time. So I'm really hopeful from a community building standpoint, as well as a sustainable mobility standpoint, that van pools can resume soon. And gosh, I would love to see all electric vans. I think the city and the county have started with the Pacifica hybrid, which is pretty cool. But I'm derailing a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about our focus here today. I think I saw a chat about car captains.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Gail, and thanks, Angel. So Angel followed up with a question on the chat. So are you still doing the car captain program? If so, can you talk about the role of car captains?
I'm probably going to pass this one to Bobby.
Thank you.
I now met Rick, who's a really great guy, but Bobby, would you tell us sort of what it is and how it works?
Yeah, so the way the car captains work, we're pretty full on most of them. There are some where we do need help. But the car captains, the way it works is you kind of help keep that car clean. You help if it's not parked in where it's supposed to go. That sometimes the spot is taken, someone will take over our spot, and that our member has to park around the corner. I might call, or one of our services people will call and ask you if you could move it back when the spot's open. And then we do have car angels as well that will go and scrape off the car, and then we give them car credit. That's how the car captains work. Anytime they do something that helps us, we give them car sharing driving credits.
Okay.
I think I'm remembering something from holiday season, the snow angels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We really needed help this winter scraping off cars, because when the members get to the cars and they're filled with snow, they couldn't access even the fob. So we'd get multiple car calls, and I could open the car for them, and they could get in and get the ice scraper, but they couldn't even get to the fob reader. So that's when a car captain would be great to have, or a snow angel would be great to have. And they get $10 or $15, depending on the snowstorm, to scrape off the car that they have not booked. If you book the car, that's kind of your job to do. But if you haven't booked it, you can go and scrape off as many cars as you want. And one guy made $50 in one day for scraping off cars and getting it ready for the next member.
It's one of the great benefits of community mobility. It's teamwork and a surprise. It's really nice on a cold, snowy day when you get to the car and it's ready for you.
Exactly.
Looks like Jessica had a very pertinent question.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby, for that description of car captains. So Jessica asked, can you talk a bit more about equity focus and the discounts you offer to low-income households?
That's a great question, Jessica. I really appreciate that. So it's an evolving answer. Currently, we have a few qualification metrics, like anyone that lives within a Boulder Housing Partners or Boulder County Housing Authority property is automatically granted our, I would call it our most affordable plan, which is freewheeling, that does typically have a membership fee, but we waive that membership fee so they get the lower rates, and then we give them a discount on those optimal rates for car sharing. So our approach is currently, I would say, proximity with vehicles being at places. If anyone is in Boulder, on Valmont near Folsom at Little Leaf, there's a lot of affordable, modern, efficient rentals. And we've got a vehicle at a dedicated charging station right there. It's I think it's Red Oak Park. So that's a long range Chevy Bolt that someone could essentially use for approximately $4 an hour. Again, that includes charging and insurance. So everyone benefits hundreds of dollars a month if they choose to forego car ownership. And then we really want to try to reduce at least the financial barrier by offering a discount on our lowest rates, but most importantly, proximity to these cars and a choice of zero emission vehicles so that it's not just affordable, I want to call it sustainable, but it's really, it's enjoyable. Driving these EVs has a learning curve, but now that I've got it, I would choose an EV almost every single time. Not so much from the sustainability standpoint, but because it's an improved experience. And I don't want that, we don't want that just to be for some of our members. We want to eventually, and every day eventually gets closer, offer that to everybody around Boulder and Denver and Colorado at large. Jessica, if you have any specific questions on that, please.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your clarification. I think it's very good, and I know that you already have some cars in some of the housing authorities. Do they get used often, or what's the usage in those places?
So can I speak on this one? Okay, so one of our number 1 areas in Denver is it's on 10th and Navajo, and we actually have 3 electric cars there. And that is that definitely is mixed income. It's highly densely populated there, and there's a pretty big majority of the members that have the 25% discount. So for instance, Noelle, she has been a member forever. She's been with us forever. And when she calls, I know her by, she knows me by voice and everything. So she pays $4.13 an hour to use the car. And she's a car captain for those 3 cars as well. And but when they use the electric car, they don't have to pay for the gas, and you don't pay for the gas, you get reimbursed for it on the gas cars. So I would just want to make sure, that's clarified as well. But we do get a lot of use out of those cars. There's 3 electric cars that are in the mixed income. That definitely is, those cars are always booked. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, in the gas reimbursements, the way that works is if you were to use a gas car, you would actually, if it goes below half, we do ask that you fill it up or get over half. And when that happens, you just take a picture of the receipt, reply to your booking confirmation, and usually within 24 hours, you get reimbursed on your Carshare account. So say you put $20 worth of gas in, now you have a $20 credit on your Carshare account. So we legally cannot give you a credit on your credit card. We have to just put it on your Carshare account for driving credits. And we ask that you keep the car cleaner than when you found it. So wipe it down when you're done and take it with you. Leave no trace.
Yes, LNT and car sharing. So great. Thank you. Dylan didn't even get to facilitate that when you jumped right into the answer. So I love having Bobby on the team. And I want to speak to 2 other little points. This is another one of those practical applications of progress. It's not just sustainability from air quality, it's a convenience standpoint. You actually don't have to go to a gas station. You can return a vehicle at a dedicated charging space, plug it in and leave it overnight. The next person, it's done. It's simplified. If anyone has been a member with us for a while, you might know that we used to actually keep fuel cards in the cars. There was damage and theft issues, so we've had to change that. And that's another benefit of kind of the logistics as we transition to an electric fleet is there's a little less of that reimbursement process. So it's definitely more than just a going green. It's a happiness factor. One other piece that came up during the dialogue. So to us, equity it's not just income based, it's also age distribution. We've partnered with universities so that folks, as long as they've had a driver's license issued for 2 years, they can join if they're age 18. So for folks that live out of state but have kids who are coming to some of the universities, they can stand to make a positive impact in the community where their kids are learning and also save a ton of money for anyone insured under age 25. I mean, wow, that's worth it right there. And this is also part of our strategic electrification growth. We're partnering with CU so that there's students and faculty and staff who will have easier, affordable access to vehicles sort of at their, I'm going to just call it their place of work, their place of residence, their place of enjoyment. Naropa is another very localized partner here at Arapahoe and Folsom. If anyone knows Rincon, Argentina, that place is great for lunch across the street. It's sort of hard to find, but that's an all-electric Chevy Bolt that I see gets booked 5 or 8 times a day, almost every day. So the adoption rate of these EVs is really impressive.
And another thing is for the students in universities like at Naropa, we have a lot of international students that come, and there is a spot for when you go to students, you go to the website and you'll see Students University, you go there, scroll down and you will see the different driver's license for foreign driver's license. We have access to that. In some cases, the student or the member will have to go and request it. And so like Will says, as long as we have 2 years of good driving history, you can become a member. But there's a spot for international students for foreign driving records. Whenever you get onto the website, you'll see join the Carshare revolution, and then you'll see foreign driving records, and you can access that, and that helps us. And every correspondence that happens with us goes through info@carshare.org as far as members. And then that way there's 5 people that monitor that inbox. It's not monitored on the weekends, but you will get a response quickly.
Looks like Angel has a follow-up question. Do you have to have a credit card to become a member?
A credit card or debit card. A lot of people, they do prepaid credit cards, and we can take those. But we do have to have a credit card on file for auto payment, because if they'll extend their booking, we have to be able to recoup our costs with that.
So Bobby, just to clarify, prepayment is an option, but a debit card would be sufficient on file to allow. And to add a little bit of detail on that, I typically see that someone has kind of what I would call a spending limit. So maybe Bobby, if that would help, Angel, please chime in if you'd like more details on how that works.
So everyone typically has a $100 credit limit when they start. And then if we get so many bounce backs from your credit card, then we put you on a prepay. And then we kind of guesstimate, it's like, okay, you're gonna have the car for 2 hours. You're probably gonna drive 5 to 10 miles. And then we just kind of, sometimes we might overcharge, but you'll have just a credit on your account. But if you don't have good credit history, we can still work with you and just do a prepay. And I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. There was something going on in the background.
It's good. I mean, as I've said, this is very much an organization. So over 4,000 members, and not 4,000 different situations, but trying to be accommodating and honestly responsive. I'm seeing some other questions come up. So Dylan.
Sure. Yeah, so Kathy Welges has a question. What happens if you break down, especially if you've taken the car out of town? And then the
So
next question is from
we have a 400-mile radius limit that we request you do not go outside of 400 miles, because we can't, it's really hard for us to help you. Our hands are kind of tied when you get beyond that. And then it's also a big fine to take it past 400 miles. But we do have, we have a fleet crew in Boulder, and we have a crew here in Denver, but we also do have a roadside service. So if you call us and, like, say you leave the dome light on and the battery's dead, we do ask that you stay by the car, and then we'll have someone out there to jump the car. You get a flat tire, we'll be able to, move you to another car, and fix it for you. So we're always a phone call away, even at 10 o'clock at night. We're always on call. There's always someone on call.
Great, thank you. And then the next question is from me. So what should people do in a situation if their phone or fob system doesn't have signal? And that's just kind of acknowledging the topography of Colorado. Some spots in the Front Range don't have signal. People might take it out skiing. They might also lose signal. So I just wanted to kind of inquire about, like, what is the kind of the best case or best route to kind of solve that issue?
So if it doesn't have signal, it actually is a fail-safe, and it will open for you. If for some reason the fob reader is not reading your fob during a booking, you call us 24 hours a day, and we can help you get into the car. There's various different ways. We can wake it up remotely, let you in remotely, and then we also have a key and a lockbox on the back of the car in emergency situations. There's always ways to get in, but there is a fail-safe when you do not have cell coverage. It's a fail-safe on the car to let you in.
That's great. One other little plug I will put in here for this future of car sharing. Several of our newest EVs that are currently in service, the Chevrolet manufacturer, they have an OnStar SOS. These cars are typically relatively affordable, $20,000 to $30,000, but it's a safety and kind of peace of mind feature that is going to be, as we roll out more of these cars, it's really impressive. I think that's a satellite connection. So even if a member was not able to call in and get Bobby or whoever it was to remotely access the vehicle, there's these kind of third-party features that we're able to bring into the community. I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about. You get a lot of benefits for about $8 an hour from what Bobby mentioned. It's incredibly affordable, and moving away from the financial argument, it's a great lifestyle benefit to live a relatively car-light lifestyle. And then when you are involved or dependent on a vehicle, to have these great resources.
Great, thank you. I know we're getting close to time here. I wanted to see if there's any last questions before we wrap up this lunch and learn.
I just put one in there.
And that's an excellent question. Bobby might want to speak to this, but we would love everybody on this call and a lot of your friends to be members, but we cannot let your friends drive if they are not members. So if you need a discount code, ask for one. But in order to drive, you must be a member. This has a lot of insurance implications. Bobby, if you want to share any specifics.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can non-members drive?
No, never, ever, ever. Because we have run the MVR on you. We've checked your history, and we haven't checked theirs. They might be a really nice person, and I'm sure I would really like him if I met him, but I wouldn't want them driving my car. And but it's really easy to apply, and yeah, it's super easy. And if you wanted to add someone on your account, all they have to do is apply and say they wanted to be added to your account, and we just just make sure it's okay with you, and then we add the driver to your account, and it's easy to do it that way.
So I'm going to highlight two benefits here. Actually, if you share an address with someone, they can actually join your plan. So the best rates we offer are typically the $12 a month membership fee that can cover multiple people at the same address. So then you're down to $6 or maybe $3 a month. What a deal. more, I don't know about more importantly, but nicely to note, if you're a member and you have a friend that wants to join, you can refer them and we'll give you both driving credit. So everybody should join. Look at these cards.
Yeah, anyone you refer, you get a $25 referral fee, referral credit fee. And then can I touch on that, the insurance real quick? So our cars are all insured with our insurance. And so when you driving, the car is insured. It's a really great rate. And if you wanted to do an additional, it's $8 a month, and that covers your $1,000 deductible. So if you back into someone, if you have the deductible, it's not going to cost you anything. If you do not, it's going to cost you $1,000. And the plans, you can change the plans once a year. Just a reminder. I just wanted to make sure that's clear. Once a year, you can change the plan.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your questions. Will, Bobby, I don't know if you had any final words, but I think we're kind of reaching the end of our lunch and learn.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and it was great having you all. And I think we got some really good information out there. So I appreciate your time.
All right.
Great. So I'll just close by thanks everybody, whether you're with us now or watching on YouTube. I'm Will at carshare.org. General information is at carshare.org, particularly the new member guide. And then info@Carshare can be more detailed questions about applying. I've got 5 friends I want to refer. How should I do that? And really learning about some of these exciting changes that we have coming down the pipe. There is a newsletter that I would encourage everybody to join, because that's one way that we will do our announcements.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.